Nate on here talking. Just everybody send your thoughts and prayers to Ant and his family right now. Not gonna get into it, but just keep them in your thoughts going forward. No, today, we're gonna talk with Nate about some cool little flying geckos, which I recently just heard. Well, when we talked to Jimmy, he's like, yeah, they did that taxonomic reclarification stuff where they're now gecko instead of how do you even say that Latin? How do you say the Latin on that? Do you know?
Oh, Fido, yeah. So they had the genus was like Phytocuzon,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
now they're saying that they're related to like the line geckos. They redid the taxonomy, and so now it's basically what to me seems to be the similar vein is like these are egg gluers, right? They lay two eggs, they're very round, they're calcified, they glue them to things, and
Yeah.
then and they have kind of family groups. So generally the babies can hatch with the adults, and the adults generally won't eat them.
Won't eat.
Now, the flying geckos are kind of an exception where you want to be on those babies in that first day or two, and you want to remove them from the tank, and they might get eaten.
Yeah.
But I've had success. I hatch the babies in the tank generally.
Okay.
Yeah, I can talk about it because I do the line geckos too.
Well, before we get into this flying gecko stuff, how you been?
Dude, I've been great. Thanks for asking. The podcast is awesome. I told you I had people at Repticon now. I mean, so yeah, we were talking about this before the podcast, but it's just been really cool this year that a lot of the projects that I've been working on for a really long time are fully coming to fruition. Like I'm breeding skinks. That was a big goal of mine. I just bred the ocellated skinks. Flying geckos was like a big goal of mine last year, and like that's been going really well, and I've been selling them with no problem. I've had people been reaching out to me organically. Palm Street has been just awesome, and then I've even had people at reptile shows be like, "Dude, I love your videos. I love your palm." And I'm like, "Who are you? What's your username? Real name?" They'll be like, "Oh, my name's
Yeah.
And then you're like, "What's your username?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm Plant Daddy 69." And you're like, "Oh, it's Plant Daddy. What's up?" Like I've seen your comments before. So like that's crazy. And like I grew up in the YouTube generation, and like I'm nowhere near a celebrity, but it's so wild to have people go up to you or like find you organically and like message you on Instagram and be like, "Hey, I'm looking for Odura." And then, I don't have any Odura posted anywhere, but I do work with them. And then I'm like, "Yeah, you're getting the right guy." Or like I had someone message me on Palm Street asking for rough snout geckos. There's like really rare New Caledonian geckos.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, you work with those? You still work with them?
No, I only had a lone male, and after a couple of years, I was like, all right, this is a very expensive lone male. Like, I should either spend $2,000 and get a female, or I can get the money I put in plus some extra because I'd grown it up. So I ended up selling it, and took that money and invested it in other projects. But they were cool. They were a little skittish, and that bothered me. I just didn't see it as much as I would like for an animal that cost me $900. I was like, all right, if you're that expensive,
my leg and the soul.
Yeah, or see you. So I sold it, and I sold it for almost twice what I paid. So that was pretty cool. That allowed me to really dive into Chihuahua and some of the more expensive, like Bavia, some of the rarer stuff that I just needed the cash to be able to get into it. And then I breed those now. So like that's, a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah. So, so how's Palm Street been treating you?
That's a loaded question.
It's like, because I haven't got into it yet, and we're like really second guessing on maybe getting into it just because it's like, man, I don't know. Like, depending on how much you sell, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come up with that shipment money to ship everything before I get paid. That's the Yeah, I was like,
yeah, Palm has a lot of pros and a lot of cons. I'm always going to give it to you straight, right? I think what's cool for me, especially early, because I was one of the first people for reptiles that was I wasn't even in the first wave. I was in like the second wave, but I got approved back in like November. So it was still early. And like what I thought was pretty crazy is like with low effort and with a low number of followers, I was regularly doing what I would do in an entire weekend at a reptile show in just 2 hours. And I didn't have to put pants on. I didn't have to, I didn't have to pay $100 for the table fee. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to set up, and it didn't cost me a whole weekend. Which my wife just loves me being gone all weekend, right? She hates that. So if I could just be busy for a couple hours, and I'm actually doing just as well, I mean, it really made me rethink if I ever wanted to do shows again because this was so much less effort. And I
Yeah.
this and now this will kind of wade into some of the cons, but for a lot of people, their credit card is already in there. It's just an easy swipe. And so there's a lot of like impulse buys. So I was finding great success selling things, which is awesome. But at the same time, you're having to pay that shipping cost up front, and that's a little scary. And one of the cool things is there's less tension, because like on Work Market or Instagram, if someone wants to buy something, there's this back and forth. They want a deal, and how much does it
Wow. Million
weigh?
pictures.
What do the parents look like? Whereas Palm
Yeah.
Street, it's just a one swipe and they're done, and then you give me the shipping info, and then there's your tracking, and you're done. So it removed a lot of that tension from the buyers.
I got cats. And, yeah. We
Having
decided to come through dude, we got cats and we got a new kitten, two dogs. Yeah, it's a whole jungle over here. So, and the cat decided to go in a different direction. So
it wants attention.
it's crazy.
It thinks that you were talking to someone else.
Right? Yeah. He never goes through the back. That's the funny part. Never comes through the back. He's always at the front. So it's like, all right, whatever.
But yeah, and yeah. So that's like the pros, right?
Yeah.
The cons is you still do need their shipping info. So if someone doesn't get back to you, their messaging can be a little glitchy. So sometimes you don't see messages, and
yeah,
everyone has reported that. So it's not just me or my phone; it's just everyone. Like,
yeah,
don't always come through. Sometimes the messages just straight up do not send. So that can create a little bit of a problem. I always encourage anyone who's listening to this, like, if you're not hearing back from someone, double text them. I know that's like an awkward thing to do, but like, do it. Or find them on Instagram just to say, hey, I messaged you on Palm and I haven't heard back. So that's a good thing. And then there are people now who are trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff like chargebacks. I think you've seen that's been a big one. And there's also people who make impulse buys and they want to get out of it. And so going forward, I have a Palm Street rep. She has told me that actually starting in this week or next week, Palm Street policy will be if you try to get out of it, there will be a 25% restocking fee, and that's going to be standard policy. So you're still on the hook for 25% of the gecko's cost or 25% of the total order. I'm not sure which one, but at least you could, I guess, all of that is not ideal, right? Because I will say on Morph Market or Show, it's pretty rare for someone to come back to me, especially once they paid Morph Market or on my website or whatever. People don't come back to me and they don't say like, hey, actually, I don't want this. It's only happened like one time. And the gal actually let me keep all of the money, which was kind of crazy. I made $200 for selling nothing, Jason. It was awesome.
Hey, it's a good day right there.
It was pretty great. I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. I don't expect, because it had been like months. So there's definitely some pros and some cons. And like a lot of people right now are having issues with people trying to like back out. I recently had a girl this week say that she paid with a company credit card, but you have to manually enter your credit card. And so that kind of got me a little suspicious. And she was like, can I cancel it? And I was worried that she was just trying to get out of it. So I said, look, you can pay me on Venmo and then I'll refund you. But I wanted to make sure that she paid first with her own card, just in case. And then lo and behold, she came when that didn't work for her. She was like, oh, I talked to my company, they said it'd be fine. I'm like, okay. Then she got mad that I wasn't shipping last week because of the heat wave. And it's like, all you have to do is wait 7 days. Like, I'm literally shipping like tomorrow and Tuesday. And she tried to get out of it. And I told her like, hey, everyone has to wait, but like literally just 4 more days, I'll give it to you. Then, I said, I'll give you a 75% refund, which is technically against my policy. My policy is no refunds, but I'm a generous guy and I get it. Stuff happens, but I'm keeping $20 because like you ruined the auction and someone else, you don't need, literally she ruined it. Like,
Yeah.
And she was like, well, then I'm going to complain to Palm Street. And I said, okay, I have a rep. I've got screenshots. Like she literally just said, I don't want the gecko anymore. She literally was like dumb enough to say that on, that it's recorded. So then I talked to my rep. My rep reads all the messages because they have access to the chat. And she's like, just give her 25%. And I told her, I don't really want to do this. I was like, okay. She didn't really want that either. So then I gave her the refund. And then she's like, oh, that's not good enough for me. I want the 100%. I'm going to go complain about you to Palm. And I was like, okay, I'm already talking to Palm, but like, you do whatever you want to do. And then she left me a 1-star review. And it's like, dude, you're killing me. And I have a perfect, on Morph Market, 50 5-star reviews. On Palm Street, I have 20 5-star, like 0. And I have nothing that's not a 5-star review. people buy stuff from me in person, locally. They buy stuff from me at shows. They buy stuff from me on Instagram, Morph Market, my website. And so that stuck. That's my first. And if you have public, it's at the top of my reviews. So I think Palm Street will remove it. I've been asking them to. And I had literally I put it, I talked to other breeders. I think I had legitimately like 20 to 30 people reach out to me and be like, report this. This is disgusting behavior. And so we're seeing more of that on Palm. It's really unfortunate. But what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
You can't do anything.
Like I said, I mean, I'm a generous, I'm a nice guy. I'm reasonable, but you do have to at least pay a restocking fee. I mean, that's you kill it.
Like you said, you messed up the auction. So here's your 75. I'm keeping 25 of it for you for the inconvenience.
Yeah, there's two other cons with Palm Street. The one is they take fees, and they're not insignificant. They charge a lot of I think it's close to 10% now of your fees. So if you're offering a gecko that you would sell for $250, you want to give Palm Street a deal, so you do two. Now you're only getting paid about $180, and then there's tax on that, which I was already paying tax, but for some people they're not. So that's something you need to think about, right? It's like if you did like a cash sale or a show sale, maybe small people, if you're making less than the government threshold, whatever, a couple of $1,000s that is, maybe you weren't paying tax. Now you're paying tax, which, like I said, I have an accountant, so I'm like, whatever, I'm already paying tax on all this stuff. But that's something to think about. And then the fee itself, right? Palm Street's making money off of us. They're also doing a lot of advertising, and I like Palm, but I do also feel in some ways that the Palm Street gold rush has diminished a little bit, right?
Oh, definitely. I can tell you now, like when I look at some of these people's Palm Streets, like their lives, it's almost like, what do you guys want to see?
Mm-hmm.
They're just totally out of it now. It's like, I mean, when you're doing them a few times a week, that's that's going to happen. It got to be, for me, if I was going to do it, it's like once a year, cause I don't have a whole lot here. So I'm not going to be doing it weekly or monthly. I just don't have enough inventory to do all that. Cause I keep my projects, pretty specific. And I mean, a lot of the stuff I do, most people probably don't even want anyway. So,
yeah. And I would say, I mean, I think it's just like anything. There's like a fad, right? Like when TikTok came out at TikTok and then it slowly waned, or you know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
I think on a couple sides, I think on the buyer side, I think a lot of people who were looking for things and came to Palm early with money probably have found what they're looking for. Like right now, I'm really not buying very much these days because I've bought a lot of stuff on Palm and some really cool stuff at a great deal. Like I got some Frappuccinos from Tiki's that, I mean, geez, bro, a Frappuccino was like $1,000 like a year or two ago. Now I'm getting them for I got one the other day for $170, which is bananas. And it has a couple spots, but it's a really nice gecko. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I've bought a lot of stuff on Palm. Now it's like, A, I have no space. And then B, it's like, okay, I kind of I got what I was looking for. I was looking for 10 things. And then it's like, okay, I got them. So I think some of that. And then I think too, anyone who was really eating up the rush of oh, Palm Street, this hot new app, I want to join it. I feel like you've either joined it at this point or you're probably never going to download the app. You know what I mean? And then when I joined too, there wasn't as many sellers. But over the past 6 months, they've accepted quite a few.
It's grown. Yeah, it's definitely grown.
So you're also competing with viewership, right? Where if I was the only reptile person on a Thursday, sweet, I'd get a lot of views. Now there might be 5 people on any given day in the reptile section. And so that's something else to think about. I feel like overall, I'm really happy with Palm. I hope nobody listens to this and thinks that I'm saying anything negative. I'm just trying to be very real that there are cons. And if you're not, I mean, I'm an extrovert, and even when I think about doing a Palm, get mentally exhausted because I have to go through 20 tanks and tubs, cup everything up. It's like a wait for a show. I have to get my lighting set up. I have to make sure my phone is charged. You have to do the pre-advertising before, and then when you're on, you're on. And I think a lot of people aren't used to being live on camera. Stuff goes wrong. Geckos are jumping around.
Yeah.
You may not have. It's free. I don't have an assistant. It's just me. And so I really can only muster up the energy to do a full Palm I try to do one every 3-ish weeks. Right. So it's 1 or 2 a month. I try to do mine on top of shows because I'm already cupping up geckos. So it's
you might as well see see what like sell the leftovers that didn't sell the show. Makes it easy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice,
Yeah.
and it's like I said, they're already cupped up, so like I try not
Yeah.
to do double work. But it is a great way to move geckos. I mean, I'm moving, even if you only move 2 or 3 geckos, and it only took you like an hour or two, like that's so nice. That's great.
Oh yeah.
You did it from home. Like you didn't have to drive to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? I was just like,
Yeah.
it's great. And I've met a lot of friends through Palm, which is really cool. Like new people, new connections. I find it's really easy to become a friend with someone if you're their customer or vice versa. Like you establish this relationship, and like it's a lot of sales that I promise you would never happen on Morph Market, right? If I sell a crested gecko on Morph Market, I'm one of like 40,000 crested geckos for sale. But on Palm, people have the credit card, they're ready, they're kind of in the mood to buy. I just find that that's been like Morph Market now for me is like all the rare stuff. If you're looking for something rare, you go to Morph Market. If you're looking for a crested gecko or like even a garg or like, you know what I mean? That's where I like. That's for Palm Street for sure.
Yeah. You'll see all the like all of the common stuff. You'll see all on Palm Street. I see all the leopards, but I mean, I even see a lot of the other stuff like jumping spiders. Actually, who was I just watching the other day? Man, I was watching the tarantula cribs. Man, they were killing it.
Yeah. The spider.
Their Palm Street was ridiculous. Like, well, because they were selling all their open box enclosures, right?
Yep.
People were going over retail buying that stuff. It was crazy.
I'm telling you, that is nuts. I'm telling you, that spider market is actually so hot. Like, not a lot of people breed them, but like, I have a buddy in Washington. I'm actually wearing his shirt, not trying to plug him, but Spider Shop. He's my buddy. We lived close to each other in Washington, and he is a full-time tarantula breeder, importer.
Oh, damn.
And then he ended up doing well enough to support a physical store location. And now he's on Palm Street, and he's been going to like Peru and Bolivia and like finding tarantulas in the wild, which is like super cool.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. That's so dope. I mean, people got money for spiders, and people who buy spiders don't just have one. You know, they have like 10, 20, 30.
I mean, my girl, she got jumping spiders, and like the one jumping spider, the wild caught one that she got came in already prego. Yeah. And she's dropped like 4 egg sacs already. Yeah. And I think like each one had like 90 something babies in that thing. I was like, good God.
I try to have native jumping spiders, because when they lay an egg sac, I just put it outside. I'm like if I got a non-native jumper, I wouldn't really be able to do that. Yeah. But what I don't want to do is raise tiny microscopic. The fruit fly is no thank you, man. And the molting and all that, it's just a pet. I don't want to breed them.
Yeah, trust me.
Because in the tarantula world, people care a lot about whether or not the tarantula is wild caught or captive bred, kind of like with geckos. But people care a lot, which I think is silly. I don't think that matters a whole lot with a bug, right? I'm not really worried about parasites. I'm not worried about communicable diseases between my tarantulas, blah, blah, blah. But with jumpers, nobody cares. You ever notice that? Like, people just buy jumpers. They're all wild caught. No one is captive breeding. People are, but like, it's just not worth your time. It's not that it's hard. It's just worth time.
Yeah, when she got this, I think it was the reverse Oreo jumper, and the guy that she got it from doesn't even breed them. He buys them from somebody else. Yes. And he's just a middleman. I'm like, dang.
What's
I was like, can I do that?
Yeah, do you go to Florida? So most of them are wild caught from Florida, which is crazy to me that it's worth someone's time, because it's not like they just sit there. They jump. So they're like kind of a pain to collect. You know what I mean?
I mean, we caught some, or she caught some this afternoon. Yeah. Chilling out in our little backyard patio.
There's quite a few species, but the ones that everyone wants to keep, like the regal, those are like the biggest. I actually really wish jumping spiders got like 2 or 3 times as large, because they're so cool and smart and interactive. But they're kind of they're so tiny. I need like tiny feeders, and I always thought it'd be really cool to have like a tarantula-sized jumper. Like that would be crazy.
Do you really want that thing jumping on you?
I mean, maybe we should thank God that he didn't make him any bigger, but it would be really.
The only thing I can start thinking about now is what's that movie with that spider movie?
I know what you're talking about, Arachnophobia.
No, not that one. The comedy one with David Arquette.
Bro, I did not know there was a comedy spider movie.
Yeah. I forgot what it was called, but they actually made it out here in Arizona. But there's like this joint where all these spiders, like these big ass spiders, are jumping everywhere. Tackles this dude off his little motorcycle. I was like,
Oh
nah,
my
I'm
gosh.
good. Yeah,
No,
I can't remember what that was like an late '90s, early 2000s movie or something with like David Arquette and somebody else. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty funny.
we should definitely consider ourselves lucky that bugs. Same with praying mantises. Everyone's like, oh, they're so cute, they're so fun. It's like, dude, if they were bigger, they would 100% eat you. Same with cats. You know, I know you have pet cats, bro. If cats were much bigger, then we would.
They'd be tigers.
Yeah, it'd be freaking
tigers and lions.
Yeah.
They kill for fun.
Oh my gosh. I read somewhere that cats, like feral cats, like outdoor cats, kill 1 billion with a B birds per year. 1 billion.
Like, and don't even eat them. That's the messed up part too. Yeah, they just kill for fun.
That's crazy. If you actually care about, like, I mean, I can't believe that having an outdoor cat hasn't been made illegal. Like, it's illegal in Australia. They kill cats. They like there are bounty hunters in Australia whose full-time job is going around in neighborhoods trapping and killing outdoor cats, and they get a bounty for them.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we should kill cats, but I am saying it should be illegal to have an outdoor cat. Like I have them in my neighborhood. I've had them in every neighborhood I've lived in.
Oh, it's
like, all right,
they're everywhere.
The birds disappearing. So I can't imagine why.
Yeah, it's not the bad weather. Sorry,
but it's hard to tell. You know, it's hard to tell someone who has a cat not to let it outside because they think it's cruel. It's like, yeah, it is. It's rough. It's also rough for the bird.
Yeah, well, yeah, they be whining and shit. Like, and all they do is like whine and whine until they get the ray. So it's like, all right, go. All right. You let the dog go, they're gone.
Right? Isn't it weird? You're like, here's all the food and warmth and love you could ever want. And as soon as the door opens, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, what is better out there that you don't have in here? I don't get it.
Hey, you got to roll with a little posse.
That's right.
That's all.
You got to be outside.
Oh man! All right, let's get into these flying geckos.
Heck yeah!
Man. So where do all these flying geckos? Where do they come from, man?
Yeah. So they're all over Southeast Asia. So like Myanmar or Myanmar. Someone in the comments is going to be like, you didn't pronounce that right. They're all over Malaysia, Singapore, Cambodia, parts of Thailand, and some random islands. And so that sounds like a huge range because it is. There's a few different species. And they obviously, it's not like you can just go anywhere in Cambodia and see them. There's certain regions, certain mountains, certain islands. They're really widespread. And they live really well with humans, just like the tokays. Where if you go to like certain like wooden structures, houses, buildings, you will see them. And actually one of their favorite places to lay eggs. In the wild, they lay eggs on tree trunks. That's why they're egg gluers. In living with humans, they tend to like up in the rafters. So like if you have like an easement or an awning or whatever, they'll lay it up there because like it's just hard for predators to get up there.
Okay, because I remember seeing like a lot of videos, like not for like the flying geckos, for like tokays. You pull back a mirror, all those eggshells and there, all these tokays are everywhere. So I figured that might be the same stuff.
Yeah, and I actually, I mean, it's one of the bummers about keeping them in captivity is if you're someone who likes control and you like to incubate your eggs, it's really hard to get it off the glass without shattering it. And like everyone tries it once and you lose an egg. I mean, I just did this with, we were talking about this, I think before the podcast, but they recently reclassified Phytocuson into more the gecko genus. So tokays, skunk geckos, flying geckos are all kind of the same family, where they are egg gluers and they give like communal family care. There's a couple other similarities. They generally are insect eaters predominantly. They like some heat. They live in Asia. But I was having this issue with my white line geckos where the eggs kept disappearing. This happened I successfully produced them. And then I have all these eggs and I check the tank every day to see if the eggs have hatched. And then the eggs kept hatching, but there was no babies. I was like, oh, that's weird. I feel like I haven't done anything different. So they're either escaping, like maybe I moved the tank a little bit and I'm going to try to seal some things up. Maybe something is like pinching, like a door handle or something. But then I was like, all right, screw it. If I'm not getting these, then I'm going to try to remove them. I know I can do this. Nope. Shattered both. I mean, I have two of them. They're like band-aided together because the first one, the gecko was almost ready to hatch. Like it was wiggling. but I felt absolutely terrible. And so the other ones are like taped. And I'm like, okay, just make it like a week or two. I'm keeping them hot. I'm like, just hatch on your own. We're gonna pretend that I never screwed up. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
brutal. It's brutal. So you have to kind of let them hatch in the tank. And with flying geckos, there is a risk that the parents will eat them. I've been successful. Once again, you know, they lay them on the glass, so you can kind of see if you write down when the egg is laid. It's typically like 60 days because I'm providing them heat. But yeah, I mean, you just, it's one of these things you don't have as much control. Same with tokays, right? Same with grandis, right? Grandis lay their eggs just wherever they feel like, and
Yeah.
any day gecko can be kind of a challenge to get to the eggs and incubate them the way that you want to. So you have to give up a lot of control. Same thing too, these flying geckos are awesome. They're beautiful. They're very interactive, which I think is killer, more than almost any gecko, and I'll talk about that. But you can't really hold them either, right? So this is an animal that you want to, you know, manhandle, show off to your friends, take selfies with. Yeah. This isn't really the animal for that. You know, they have delicate skin. They're very fast, and they will, if you pinch them, they will bite you. They're in that tokay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, of course, yes. I guess so. So now they are part of that gecko family. They
Right.
gotta bite you.
Yep.
It's mandatory now.
They maggot, they squeak, you know, if pressed. But what I really like about them is I've had killer success raising the juvies at room temperature or a little bit above. My reptile room in the summer is regularly like 70, 72. And it does not get below 76 in the summer because it's North Carolina. It's hot as I mean, they probably think they're at home in Malaysia because it's hot and humid over here. But I've had great success keeping the juvies in like 3-gallon glass tanks when they start out small. I mean, they look at anything, right? It comes out of an egg. But they're on crickets immediately, and they very quickly come to understand that you're food. And with all of my flying geckos, I have a relationship where I can easily tong feed them. And that's pretty fun. Like, you can't do that with like you know, some adult crested geckos. They will follow your tongs. They will. I've had a couple where even the wild caught mom, if I clicked the Exoterra door, she would immediately come down to the door. Like, she knew it meant food time, and like, that's awesome. So yeah, if you want to,
these ones always think it's food time. Every time I open, I'm like, you chill the fuck out.
Yeah. So the if you want to breed them, you need heat, and I would incubate the eggs with a little bit of heat. But if you want to just keep them, you can get away without it. The only thing is there's a couple pitfalls, right? With keeping these guys, you want to keep, you know, especially if you're trying to breed and you got a female. With all gecko species, tokays, white-lined geckos, and flying geckos, I think we all read the care guides. It doesn't mention anything about UVB. They're all nocturnal, so you think, oh, I can get away with it. And often you can. But some females will randomly calcium crash. I think you had who's the tokay guy? Jimmy Ma. He's awesome.
Yeah.
When he started out, he had all these pairs of tokays, and then sometimes females would just up and die. He started putting UVB on them, and then none of them died, right? So the reason for this, even though they are nocturnal, those eggs are calcified, right?
Yeah, highly calcified. Yeah, definitely.
It takes a lot out of the female. And so now for all 3 of my gecko species that I keep personally, tokays, white line flying, I give all laying females UVB. The males, it doesn't really seem to matter at all. But if a female is in my care, she gets UVB. And since I've started doing that, I've had 0 crashes. I've had healthy eggs. But early on, I did lose a female. She may have also had a parasite or like a tumor. She had this growth on her knee. And that's the second pitfall I want to talk about, Jason. Sorry if I'm running away from you here.
No. I was about to ask you about like import and wild caught stuff. So we can go get into it.
Yeah. So the one that we all know, the one you're going to see it shows, is P. cooley, or the Cool's parachute or flying gecko. They actually call them the parachute gecko. And so
don't they call them that? That's like one of their common names.
Yeah, parachute gecko or flying gecko, because they have, not only do they have webbed toe pads, which is super cool, they have these big baggy flaps on their side, and then their tail has these fringes and this big flap at the end. It's like 25% of the tail. And so when they glide, they can actually glide 100 feet is like the record. And what's really
Wow.
sad is like when I started out years ago working with these, I couldn't find a video anywhere really. You know, we got YouTube, we got everything. You're like, how is there not a video of this? But in captivity, you're really not going to see it, right? You're keeping them in a 30-gallon. That's like an ideal setup for like a pair. You really need to give them like 6 feet or more in some big branches if you ever really want to see. I mean, you'd need like a
Yeah.
room to see them glide. But apparently in the wild, and you know, they have gravity to their advantage, so they're coasting. But 200 feet, I mean, that is bananas. That's so far.
Oh yeah, man. Like, no, I mean, yeah, they were using that just to escape predators. Man, I could just imagine them going from tree to tree to tree,
Yeah.
just flying around, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that's super dope. That's like one of the coolest
Yeah.
gecko, like I don't know, defense mechanisms, whatever you want to call it, I've seen besides like Mastropheres with their tails.
Yeah.
Like that's like up there with that stuff. They're so like dope when I see every time I see them, I'm like, man. But they always come in wild caught. So I was like, do I really want to go and try them? Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So they're kind of like the flying fish of geckos. They're like, what if I could just leave? We're gonna just get the heck out of here. But yeah, so the vast majority of flying geckos that are kept in the hobby are wild caught. And I've run into this with tokays too, right? People are sometimes actually quite rude. They don't realize they're being rude, but they'll be like, $200 for a tokay. Well, no thanks. I'll just get one for $50 the next reptile show. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. And it may work out for you. But when that gecko gets sick and it dies and it gives the rest of your collection worms or whatever else, you're gonna like come back to me, and I'm not gonna be super inclined to, you know, I'm always down to help people out, but you know what I mean? It's like and it's gonna be underweight, and it may not breed for you, and it may just up and die, and that happens a lot. So a lot of times people get these flying geckos, and they do have a huge, dude. It's not even parasites. Parasites is absolutely a thing, but it's actually mites is a big problem. Almost 100% of the time, if you're buying a wild caught flying gecko, it's not, does it have mites? It has mites.
It has mites.
You need to treat it for mites, and you need to practice proper quarantine, right? I'm a freak. You know, I've got a big collection. I keep all kinds of wild stuff. The thing that has saved my butt time and time again is distance between tanks, different rooms, quarantine. So I have like a wild caught room, you know, and then I have like an inner sanctum of all the clean geckos, like the new cows, where nothing wild caught ever goes in there, right? You need to treat them. Those skin flaps that we talked about that help them to glide are just full of mites.
God damn.
Yeah, and you can see them if you go to a show sometimes and you just like lift it up or even look at the cup. The good news is, unlike snake mites, these tend to be less of the travel-y mites, right? And more of the like direct contact. But you have to think, when they're importing these in the hundreds in a crate, they're all on top of each other. They're not in good clean.
Passing everything along.
They're coming in dehydrated, stressed, and with a parasite load. So yes, you can get a flying gecko for $20, $30, $50, $70 at a reptile show, but you're gonna have problems and you need to treat it. And so you can treat it with, like, I think people use vegetable oil. That's what I've used before. And what you're doing is you're actually smothering the mite. So it doesn't really hurt the gecko, but you're gonna have to wear gloves, and the gecko is not gonna like it, and it's gonna try to bite.
He's gonna bite you.
But you're basically taking those neck flaps and the skin folds and the toes. The mites are in the toe flaps too, and they're all over. I mean, it's bad. You're basically getting a Q-tip. You can also use a couple commercial products that are like mite killers, but you got to be really careful, because lizards, unlike snakes, can be really susceptible to neurological issues if you're using things like prevenamite, any of that kind of permethrin based, you know, chemicals. Some lizards will die in that process. You really got to be careful. And so I can't remember what people are using. There's different tick and mite sprays that people are basically putting a Q-tip on, and they're just rubbing it. But it's a lot of work, and you really need to think about that. You know what I mean? Or keep your stuff separate. I see people on Facebook Marketplace, or like, you know, Facebook like reptile groups rehoming flying geckos, or even just a tank that a flying gecko is in, and I'm like, dang, you need to F1 that tank. You know what I mean? Like,
you gotta set that thing on fire.
Put some chlorhexidine on that bad boy. Cook it in your car. I mean, do not put a I mean, I encourage everyone, if you're buying a used tank, ask the person what they had it in there for, because man, you can get so much crypto, all kinds of nasty stuff. And I've been very fortunate, Jason. I've really never had disease issues, and I owe it all to the fact that I'm a microbiologist who practices. I'm tooting my own horn here, but you gotta practice.
There you go.
Quarantine. I'm a freak about it. Same with crested geckos, even. You know, when I get a cresty from someone, it goes in a tub. I keep an eye on it. Once or twice, I've gotten a gecko that had worms, and I knew it before it pooped. Oop, you got to have proper quarantine. I can tell a lot of times. Oh my gosh, am I breaking up, Jason?
No, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you coming in and out a little bit, but I think that's my Wi-Fi being a pain. I can move. Let me see. It's being a pain. This is good because I have some eggs I want to show you.
Oh,
after I just said that it's
who's those? Oh, those flying geckos.
After I lied to you all about them. So I have potentially a trick. It doesn't work every time, but I have a tube of bamboo. It's a big tube. And I put those Leica balls that people use for like drainage and their bioactives.
Oh yeah.
I put those in the tube. This was just sort of a thing. I put them in the tube because I wanted they had dug them up, and I was like, what the heck? I just put them in the tube. But they started seeing those as other eggs, so they thought it was a communal egg laying site, which is what they do in the wild. And so what's interesting is every once in a while I get a pair of eggs with no glue marks. They don't glue them to the glass or to the tube.
Nice.
And then I can incubate them the way that I want to. I have control. So I just wanted to show you, because this is rare to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And you can see it's dark. You can tell that they're fertile, and there's an embryo in here. So be careful with them. What's crazy is they're perfectly round. I'm like, they're only glued to each other. This is really freaking cool to be able to show you that. So that's I wanted to do that. But anyway, what were you saying about?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So, like with their skin, like the skin folds, are they subset? Can they get bacteria inside those or anything like that? Have you seen anything like like that that's in your collection?
The skin folds don't seem to be a problem, but their skin seems susceptible. They have a very soft skin, and I've seen some really rough. You can tell when a rough wild caught one comes in, or their skin looks ashy, right? So it's like evidence of like not good sheds or scarring or something like that. So their skin seems a little sensitive, and I think a lot of new keepers, right, people that I see in the hobby that aren't maybe longtime breeders, will struggle with the humidity aspect, right? Because if you have a heat lamp that dries out the tank, you really need to be spraying like twice a day. But it's not a fraud. Don't keep it sopping wet. It's okay for it to be dry, right? You think about it in the wild, the air humidity is high, but where is a tokay? Where is a flying gecko? They're on a branch. That branch is dry, or they're on the structure, on wood, on bamboo. The bamboo is not soaking wet. So I think that's something that people mess up. I've also heard people talk about Pangea in the context of these flying geckos, like you can feed them Pangea. I've
heard people.
Yeah.
I've heard people. Well, anything tropical. I've heard people giving their stuff Pangea as a treat. So I was gonna. Do they take it?
I don't know. I've never really. I think I've bothered like once or twice. The thing for me is that I think anyone who knows this, like if you have a large collection, Pangea is expensive. When I started out, that was like a huge like winning factor for me of keeping a gecko is if it would eat Pangea. Now I don't really want you eating Pangea unless you'll eat all of it. It's just kind of like a waste. I've heard tokays will take it. I've heard anecdotes, but it gives them like runny poop, so it doesn't seem to be very like good for them. And then for the
you look at the lychees and all that stuff.
For the flying geckos, I did it for like a year, and I never really saw them eat it. Whereas like animals that aren't crested geckos that eat Pangea, like Bavia, lychees, jeweled lacerdas, different skinks, I'm actually seeing them eat it as soon as I put it in the tank. So for me, if it's my recommendation, save your money. A flying gecko is not.
Give them crickets. Give them roaches.
Feed them bugs. They want to eat bugs, and give them good calcium. That was something else I wanted to say, Jason, with the calcium crashing. You really want to dust every single time. There's no reason not to. Just dust all the time. As I've kind of progressed in the hobby, I've come to the conclusion, like I really don't want to be giving anything Pangea that's not actively eating Pangea. Like the spotted night lizards will eat Pangea. Like you know what I mean? And like I keep all kinds of stuff that eats Pangea, but if it's not going to actively eat it, it's really a waste of your money. And like I said, their digestive systems just aren't really like that. If you want a gecko that's like a flying gecko that eats Pangea, then you should get a golden gecko. You should get a white line or a skunk gecko, because those actually eat Pangea and they eat it like
Yeah.
heartily. They go after it. You get a house. I think those Asian house geckos would probably, dude. Do you know those eat rice? They live in the same area.
Really?
They actually kind of they look like they kind of look like a flying gecko. They have a fan shaped tail. They're like really cheap at shows. Nobody works with them at all. But just like flying geckos, they breed quite well in captivity and they produce a lot of eggs. And I read a scientific article that said that they had been seen eating little bits of rice, which to me says, oh, they would definitely eat Pangea. Like rice is not a good meal for a gecko.
I mean,
crazy.
It's probably all sopping wet, all soaked up, so it makes it nice and soft. Probably, I would think so.
Asian house gecko eating rice. I'm like, we're bordering on like risky territory.
You got to do what you got to do, I guess. You know,
it's like they eat like.
Actually, I saw some I saw some Asian house geckos when I was at the reptile store today.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're out there. It's just like nobody, because who's gonna buy? And they're small, right? So if you're gonna have a house gecko, it's gonna be like microscopic, and those also are gonna have parasites, mites, those kinds of things. But it's.
I thought most people use them for feeders, right?
Yeah, I want to do it though. I want to breed them. I think it would be cool because I breed the fish scale geckos, which are
Those are so cool.
And they're also
is that it's not is it Microlepis? Geckolepis, yeah. I was thinking something else. Oh, I'm getting some Pachydaculus Macrolepis. So that's what popped in my head. But
Geckolepis, they're really cool. Once again, you cannot hold them. Their skin sloughs off like crazy.
That's super cool though. I like that. That is so like it just looks like a piece of chicken breast.
Like raw chicken.
It looks like raw chicken breast.
Dude, I'm probably one of like 5 people in the States that's like working with them. I don't understand why no one works with them. They're not hard. Like I have a friend who's like, give me all of the ones you produce. I'm seeing like 4 eggs, so that's like a fun feeling. When once again, it's the value of working with rare stuff is there's going to be people, and the fish scales do great at room temperature. They eat Pangea. They love Pangea. So it's like if you're used to keeping a crested gecko and you want something that's adorable, but you just can't really touch it. They're pretty fun. And those are another gecko where I keep the babies with the adults year round, actually. And they do pretty well. But yeah, with the flying geckos, you really need to think about quarantine. You need to think about parasite treating. So that's like Panicer, right? They're going to have intestinal parasites. The shipment from Asia to the United States is stressful. They get dehydrated. A lot of these importers and like big box, people that we would all know that will sell you imported reptiles, they don't always do the best job of rehydrating them. So these are just things to think about, right? If you get a cheap wild caught, there may be some heartbreak in your future. You may want to buy a group of them in case some of them crash. I mean, it's the same thing with anything. Even wild caught chuck wallers, right? You think it's in America, so it'll be easy. Like those don't do very well in captivity like half the time.
Oh yeah?
And they're not cheap. Oh yeah, I'm trying to work with chucks.
Nice.
I've had mixed. I really like the one I have. She'll climb onto my hand. It's crazy. Mixed success. I had a beautiful adult male just completely crash and burn. So yeah, I mean it's complicated. Any wild caught animal, right? And that's why flying geckos aren't bred as much. Is I don't think people want to take that risk. And then if you want to buy a flying gecko that's captive bred, they're actually not that expensive.
Oh, I've seen them for like $150, $200
all day. Yeah. And if it's like a sexed female, I want like $200 or $250, but like that's super reasonable to not have to go to the vet, to not have to, quarantine the heck out of all your stuff. It's solid, it's hardy, it's eating. It's honestly in that case, that's like a slam dunk. If they were like $1,000, I'd be like, all right, you might want to think about it. But it's like $100, go mow some lawns. You can afford this. Like that's not that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, go do some. I just got approved for Amazon Flex, so now I do the Amazon Flex. So that's why I do that. Boom. All right, start sending money to people.
I love the pay in full is now available everywhere.
Oh yeah, man! Like that is so scary right there. Like, man, like I think my buddy was like, "Hey, man, I got," because he was trying to get me to get these Abronias, He's like, oh
Yeah.
man, you can just do the pay in four. I was like, nope, don't want no part of that. I was like, I got 2 credit cards and that's all I ever want. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't need anything else.
I had a person
Man,
want to buy something, and they specifically wanted to buy it on Palm Street because Palm Street had the built-in functionality. I mean, I will say the app is amazing, and the support is really good on Palm. The support is really good for sellers. But
yeah.
he wanted to buy it on Palm Street because Palm Street had pay in four. I was like, sure. So I was like, sure, man. Whatever gets the job done.
Whatever works for you.
I just thought that was really funny. Like I've never done the pay in four, and like I'm thankful for that.
Right.
But it's like you ever get like Domino's pizza, and it's like you can do like extend pay, and you're like, for a pizza, oh no, like what?
It's $7. It's $10. Come on, man. You can do it.
I have to explain to my grandparents that I have to like extend a pizza payment. It's just like a weird world. I mean, it's rough out there. It's really like
it is
everything. It's like it's been rough for me too. I'm not gonna get into like politics or nothing, but like current climate has been rough for my like 9 to 5, and it's reflected in the gecko world too. I think shows have been.
It definitely has
for the couple of years for sure.
And then, like I said, even with like you said, that Palm Street and then Morph Market auctions, everybody's trying to get it for the lowest price possible.
Yeah, we're racing to the bottom.
Yeah, it could be that most highest value animal in your collection, and they were like, "What's the lowest you'll go?"
I saw like a really great company, American I think it's American Made Exotics or whatever. They vend out here. I buy stuff from them occasionally. Like I bought a palmetto corn snake from them. They had beautiful fraps on their table. Some of them had spots and stuff, but like they're still nice. Mm-hmm. They had them for $600 or $700, which would probably be a steal if you are not in, if you don't know the market. But anyone who knows the market is never going to pay $600 or $700 for a frap now. When you can, you can get them. I told you I got one for $170, bro. That's insane for like an animal.
I was seeing those lilies on Palm Street going for like $20.
Oh my gosh, that makes me as a lily breeder just like. And I don't think I charge a lot. Like my lilies are like, if you want to buy a baby from me, I'll give it to you for $100. If you want like a nice sub-adult, maybe $250 on the lowest end. Yeah. But the fact that people are like, $20 isn't even worth my time.
And I saw, man, and like this person was losing his shit too about it. I was like, don't like that's the risk that you take with this,
right?
Like, especially you doing these $1 starts, like,
right?
So you gotta weigh those options. Like I think I was watching LAC's Palm Street, and they were talking about like, no, we're not gonna be doing these dollar joint. Right. We're gonna keep it where like maybe 20% below retail. We're not gonna do these dollar starts and lose our ass. I was like, makes sense.
So LAC does it, I think, pretty much as like a full-time job, and I think that's the difference. You notice people who do it full-time for a living, like Sundown Reptiles. I know you know him, and people who do it full-time, like Richie, they're going to be, a lot of those people are flexible, but they're going to be a lot stricter on not going to the bottom, right? Because it's like you literally can't do that. Whereas I think smaller hobbyist breeders, where we're just like, gosh, I just need some money, or I just need to get these geckos out of my house. It's like. Yeah, that's where it gets a little dangerous. And like I've had that problem on Palm where like I've done dollar starts and they went for a lot less than I was happy with. But like sometimes I needed to move stuff. So there's like a balance there for sure.
Yeah, If you got a bunch, if you got a bunch of stuff and you need to move it, it seems like Palm Street might be a good place for you to go to. But if you don't,
done terrible to the market. I mean, I told you they had fraps for $600. That's a good deal. They were big fraps. They were like halfway to adult size. And that's just like, if you don't know the market, you would probably pay that. But everyone knows that you can get a crazy deal on Palm or on Morph Market auctions. And, I think.
Oh, trust me, I'm on those auctions. Like part of my routine. Yeah, part of my routine every day, like, Monday through Friday, really, when I go to work. When I get to work, all right. Pull up a Morph Market, look at the auctions real quick, scroll to auctions. Then I go to like my other gecko section, see what's in there. Then I'll go to the other lizard section, see what's going on in there. Now I'm starting to look at snakes, getting real close. She's like, she'll do a hog. She was like, I'll do a hog nose. It's like, okay, cool. I want some sand boas because I want something that does live birth.
No, you don't, bro. No. Talk to me, dude. I went on my snake journey this year. I went
Oh
from
yeah.
having like 0 snakes to like 10. I'll tell
Oh
you
shit.
really quick. I don't want to derail our gecko pod.
No,
Look,
no,
you
you're
want
good.
talking about snakes now? That's not what I signed up for. But I will tell you, I love the live bears, so that's like almost exclusively what I breed as far as like snakes go. So
Oh
like
yeah.
garter snakes are phenomenal because you can feed them fish, mice, or worms. And the live bears, you'd also keep them at room temp just fine. Not a problem
Oh
at all.
nice.
Like that's like ideal. No extra heat lamp. Nerodia are crazy slept on. Those are the
Yeah.
water snakes, like the banded snake.
Yeah. I think I always hear about them in whenever over in THN they talk about
Yeah,
them.
they're
Yeah, yeah.
freaking cool. They're beautiful. They're friendly. They're live bears. They don't need a lot of like you can keep them at ambient like 80 degrees or whatever. And then
Yeah.
rosy boas, which I'm currently trying to breed.
I love those things.
I also
Yeah.
have this thing. Have you heard of a rubber boa?
Yep, I've heard about them too.
Yes,
I
and they
like them
don't
too.
room temperature. They're phenomenal. They look like a turd though.
Yeah.
That's the only bummer is they're brown. Just
Well, because I is it the rosy boa or the rubber boa that like you'll see them? They'll be going through snow and stuff.
yeah. The rubber can take it down to like. I mean, I told you I literally brewmated mine in my garage, and it gets down to like 39 in there in the middle of winter, and you have to brewmate them.
Yeah.
The first year
Yeah.
of their life, they actually, well, the first 9 months, they don't eat. So they're born in the fall. They go straight into brumation, and their first meal is not until the following spring when they come.
Holy shit, that'd give me so much anxiety.
It did, bro. It did. Because I bought this female, and she was not.
Man. Yeah, yeah. I seen them. I seen them on Morph Market. I'm like, ooh, oh,
I don't
but
think anyone. I think you can collect them. So they're all captive
no.
bred. They're really expensive. And so I got this thing. I don't even remember, bro. Like I don't remember when. I think it was like towards September, and it did not eat until like a month ago. I was like, what the frick? And I'm keeping it room temperature on my base floor. You know what I mean? Like 70 degrees in the winter down to like 65. And then I put it in my garage as soon as it got like to winter temps. And just having that there, and I'll just check on it like every couple of weeks. I'm like, you still alive? You got water? You good? I would say get a nice morph garter, like an albino checker. Get an
How big do they get?
What, a garter? Like super reasonable.
Yeah.
They're like small, like 3 or 4 feet.
Okay.
Sometimes
Yeah,
they
because because first I was looking at like these Dominican red mountain boas, and then I started reading up on them, and they're like, yeah, they get like 6 foot. I was like, oh nope, I don't need anything taller than me. Sorry.
Yeah, a rosy is another phenomenal snake that stays a very reasonable size. They eat every time. You can hold them. They don't need a ton of heat, but they're also from the desert, so you don't have to worry about humidity. They're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm hopefully producing albinos. I think you might
really?
have seen. Did I post it on my story? I need to. I had a really nice. I just sold a young female albino, but they're freaking dope. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I think I seen you post, or I know that you had the rosies and you posted it, so I was like, oh, okay, Nate, we doing some other stuff now. Oh,
and
all right.
I have 2 sand boas. The cool thing with sand boas is there's so many.
I like those.
They're beautiful, and they're for handling. If you don't want like a squirmy snake, they're like really chill in your hands.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a slug. You're like, dude, I need you to.
I went to the shop, my buddy, because I was like, this was like a couple years ago, because I was supposed to do a trade with somebody back in, I think he's in like Utah or something.
Yeah.
I was gonna send him like a pair of my Odor monoliths, and he was gonna give me a few sand boas, but the litter never dropped, so I never got them. But no, but I went to the shop, held a full grown male. I was like, you're chilling, like you don't move at all. Like, okay, I like this. And they don't get big. They're like less than like the males, like less than like 2 feet.
Yeah, the males are super reasonable. The females actually get a little bit large, but for a snake, very reasonable, right? Like my problem is with I like king snakes because they're like garbage cans. They just eat like everything. But they get up to like 6 feet, and you're like, dude, that's a lot of snake, and like I'm gonna struggle if I can't keep it in a 40-gallon. That's kind of like my max, you know what I mean? Like if a snake is like 7 feet, I obviously cannot keep you in a 40. Like that's like a 4x2x2, and it's like I really don't have space for a lot of 4x2x2s.
And that's what made me say no to those Dominican reds.
Yeah,
because I was like, like the minimum for just one single one for an adult was like a 4x2x3 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that.
They make some cool. There are some cool boas out there that stay smaller. I think there's one from like the Caribbean called the Ford's boa. There's also one that's not really in captivity, which is a dang shame, called the bromeliad boa, and those things are wicked. Wicked's, speaking of wicked reptiles or whatever. Adam Wickens, he has a video on them, and he wants one so bad, and like nobody sells them, but they're freaking cool. But yeah, I went on a sand journey. The only thing with the sand boas is they're kind of a pain to feed. The males don't eat super often, and like I want you to eat every time I feed you. Like that's kind of my rule. I want easy pets, Jason. Easy, fun. I don't want to waste mice, and so like the females seem to eat pretty good, but the juvies and the males can be a huge pain, and they like stick their little head out of the sand or the substrate, and that's how you can tell that they're hungry. But if you open the tank, then they disappear, and you're like, no, put your head back. I needed you to bite this. Like, if you're thinking about a sand boa, talk to me, call me later. Like, I wouldn't really recommend sand boas. I'm currently selling one if anyone wants one.
I just like them. You know what they remind me of?
What?
They watch Beetlejuice.
Yeah. They're really jerky.
That's the whole reason I wanted them. I was like, now I'm gonna name them after every Beetlejuice character in the whole Beetlejuice universe.
Buy my black and white male anery. It's got a good size. It's perfect.
You know I gotta get permission first.
Do you have any female Manillas, by the way?
No, I don't. Like I said, I gave all my Manillas away. So I'm gonna get some more eventually. I'm waiting for my boy Wyatt because he's working with some. I think it was like the stripe form.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to get some of those from him. Nice. Yeah, they are. Well, because there's not many people are actually working with them. So
right. Supposedly those will lick Pangea, but they don't seem to really.
They do. I've when I fed them to the Manillas, they took it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, because I think I read it on who was it? Was it like Reptiles of Eden or something on theirs? Yeah. They said every now and then they take Pangea. So I tried it. They do it. Even like my Homophilus, those velvet geckos, they take it. Pangea. Every now and then they'll go at it, but.
Yeah, dude, I had them on exclusively Pangea for a while. It was easy. Got sloppy. I was doing like bugs and then Pangea like once a week, and then I think there was like a few months where I did just Pangea, and they got so fat. I was like,
see, I can't do that. Like my Chihuahuas only get Pangea like once a week.
Okay,
yeah. I feed mostly bugs. I want them to be active and like athletic. So I was like,
I will say,
even when I had Cresties, I did the same thing.
I've moved a lot of my stuff to bugs this year because I get bugs shipped, so it's like not really a problem. And Pangea seems to be just really expensive, especially when they don't eat the whole bowl. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, and it breeds fruit flies, and that's gross. It's like I've been moving more to bugs, and I have noticed that all my animals are faster, leaner, more athletic, which in some ways is a bummer if you want to hold them. You kind of want like a fat bloated gecko, because then you're like, oh cool, you're just gonna sit here.
Yeah, but then you get that runny shit.
Right, it's better too.
Yeah, even when I put like Pangea or something in like the Chihuahua tank, that thing is so filled with so many mealworms in the substrate that they just all come up and eat all that stuff up. So.
Yes, I have that in one of my gargoyle bioactive tubs. The bioactive soil came with mealworms, and I'm like, what is going on in here?
But I mean, it's perfect because whenever my girlfriend needs small mealworms for her baby jumpers,
oh nice,
there you go, boom, boom, boom. I just put a little cap of Pangea or something in there. Then they start going at it, and I start picking them off.
Nice, man, that's great.
Yeah, you utilize those resources. So what kind of like for these flying geckos, you said like a 30-gallon, what's the dimensions on those?
Yeah,
like you using like an exo or zoom ed or something?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like for the babies, when they hatch, I put them in like an 8x8x12, and they can live there for a long time. I noticed too, when you raise a gecko in something, you can get away with a smaller enclosure because they're used to it as they grow.
Yeah.
So whenever you feel like that baby or juvenile is ready for the next stage, then I usually throw them in like a 12x12x18, like a normal 10-gallon. And they can live up in that, up basically to like sub-adult. But if you're just going to keep one, you could probably get away with like a 15-gallon tall. They call them an exoterra, like skyscraper. It's like a
Okay,
12
yeah.
by 12 by
Like
24
24.
or whatever. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
a little on the small end, but at least then when you have the heat dome, they have room to be like warm or if they can be cool. Like I notice these geckos like to be warm right after a meal, right? Because it helps them digest.
Okay.
And so she'll be on whatever glass is the hottest, closest to that.
Okay.
But if you're gonna have a pair, I would really recommend at least an 18 by 18 by 24, right? A 30-gallon. I think that's just kind of standard. If you can, I really wouldn't do anything less than that, just because these geckos are pretty active and they're always on the glass. So you want to
And
give
you
them,
really want something wide, right?
yeah,
Like you get wider than that 18. If you could do a 36,
yeah,
just to
and,
see that aerial jumping and all that stuff.
and put some
From
in there. Give them some
yeah.
horizontal. For every gecko, it's good for them to also have ways that they can be horizontal. But if you make like a nice bamboo tank in like a 30-gallon, like I think that's perfect. It's gonna look good. You're gonna have a hot spot that they can bask under, and you'll see them under it. And then, like I said, if you have a female, I really would recommend UVB. Right? You could maybe get away without it, but these guys are very prolific. They're not particularly difficult to breed, but anything that's pumping out a lot of calcified eggs, you've got to watch the calcium. And I've had one or two come close to calcium crashing where they were kind of seizing up, they were freaking out, their toes and their tail were trembling when I startled them, and that I immediately put liquid calcium in their mouth. Immediately. I would dust every single time with D3. Do it. Because believe me, when you see a calcium crash, it is heartbreaking and it's our fault, right? Like if that happens, that's our fault. We were not giving them the proper supplementation or the proper UV. So if you're not going to do UV, you better be supplementing every single time. And like I would think about having liquid calcium at the ready. But really I would just, easier just to have UVB, right? And then I would still supplement.
What brand of liquid calcium do you use?
I don't even know, just whatever popped up first on Amazon. It was like, it's literally just called like liquid calcium. It's in like a little dropper. Yeah. It's easy. And I've been having a lot of fun with different calciums. Like I think it's Fluker's makes a calcium that's flavored like banana and strawberry, which is so extra. But for so many of my geckos, they also eat fruit, or like my banana pectinata, it's an iguana, right? It eats fruit. So I'm like, you know what? That's like kind of like super fun. I like that. And it smells good. So I've been using that. I'll use normal calcium. I'll use Repashy, the vitamin one, because that has trace minerals too, which is cool. It doesn't dust them as heavy or as white either, which is kind of nice. You're not breathing in all that chalk every time. But you know what I mean? I would just mix it up, supplement, and then once again, 2 different feeders. These guys will readily take superworms off tongs. So that's a good way to get some different nutrients in there. You could do small dubia as well, like small to medium dubia. They'll take those. So just kind of doing like a varied diet. And like I said, if you want to put Pangea in there once a month, Bob's your uncle. It's your Pangea to waste, but they may lick it. I don't know. I don't know.
So what kind of, you said you're talking about hotspot. What temp are you aiming for that?
So man, I can't tell you. I mean, all this stuff I'm saying, I'm not sponsored by any of these people. So if Zilla, if you want to give me some of that hot reptile money, it's Nate-Barry-16. But I am such a fan, huge fan of the Zilla mini domes, because you can, they're killer. Yeah, go ahead and show that. I love them. Yeah, and they have the ones too that are more cone shaped.
Yeah, I got those as well.
So I'm a huge fan of those for a couple of reasons. A, they're cheap. They're like $14. And you can just plug them in anywhere. But they come with, you can buy this at Petco, PetSmart, Amazon. You can actually get them much cheaper on Amazon, third party. But they have these tiny halogen bulbs that cost like $1 a piece. If you're used to spending $10 to $50 per bulb, which some of these mercury bulbs are $50, you can spend $1. And I get the 25 watt because my room is already fairly warm, so I'm not trying to cook the hell out of them. They do well with the ambient temperature of 75 to 86, and then a hot spot of about 90 to 100, right? And so if you have one of those mini domes, a 25 watt, they even have a blue bulb, which is kind of like fun lighting. That's what I use. And it creates enough heat that they can bask and hit whatever temperature without cooking the whole enclosure, without making it hard for me to keep the humidity up to snuff. It's great. Big fan. Huge fan of the mini domes.
Oh yeah, that, and like I said, those halogens. Like I said, you go on Amazon, Don't even look up. Don't even type in reptile. Just type in 25-watt halogen. You will get like a a 4-pack for like $10. It's crazy. Like I said, I did the same thing as because most of my like Stropheris, Haemophilus, and all them, they have all 25-watt exception, like my breeders. Like this one, I think that's like a 35, but that's just I was talking to Landon. He's like, bump up the heat, get that thing over to 100 degrees. I was like, all right, cool, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too I wanted to talk about, Jason. Like a lot of people ask me about trios, right, and quads, and like for some geckos that works. I found in the gecko genus you really want pairs, and I'll give you an example. So like the flying geckos I've been breeding for years. Or not sorry, not the flying, the lined geckos, closely related. I think they're called Gecko vittatus. Is their
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So I had a trio, and they weren't producing any eggs, and I'm like, what the heck? It's definitely 2 females and a male. And someone told me, I think it was Johnny Crisco Critters, was like, hey, you got to remove one of those females. They don't do well in trios.
Just because it's a family.
As soon as I did that, I was getting eggs like crazy. So for me, in my experience, I've never done more than a pair. Same with tokays. It's just a pair. It's fun that you can keep them together year round, generally, as long as they're not, beating each other up. And I haven't really seen aggression. But I just wanted to put that out there, on this podcast, that if you're trying to do this and you're trying to breed them, and I welcome other breeders, please. I don't want to be, there's not a lot of us that breed flying geckos.
You might see me there soon. You never know.
I hope so. We didn't even talk about Horsfeldii. So the gecko, the coolie, is the one that everyone will see at shows. They're dark. They can fire up and down like a cresty, where they can be like kind of white, like a beige, like my wall, or they can be like black, like your shirt. And then Horsfeldii is more of like a greenish white, and they have these really cool kind of like Cerdadactylus patterns, where they have that like almost like ocean floor underwater, like wavy patterns to them. Really pretty, and they stay a little smaller. And that was named after Horsfeld, which is like a researcher. But the coolie were only discovered, like they were formally written about in 1902. But they've only been in the hobby since the 80s. And really, anyone who was captive breeding them was almost by accident. Like no one knew what they were doing. You know what I mean? So it's cool now that at least you have news of like, I've bred them. There's a couple other breeders that come to mind.
Geegan's Laboratory or something. I think he was breeding them.
I actually got to see his facility, dude. It was
used to.
Yeah, he has a Bronia. He is also very successful with monkey-tailed skates, which is really cool.
Oh, nice.
He has all kinds of cool stuff, but his main thing is day geckos. And there's another gal. She lived in like near Washington, and everyone would know her. I think her name is Christine. I can't remember her business name, but there's a couple people, and like I think there's another one, 402 Exotics. That's where I got some of my captive bred.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, 402 Exotics. So they have them more regularly than I do. I mean, I'm just like small beans. My pair was the long-term captive I got from a guy named Ronnie, who was just kind of moving geckos out. And I was like, okay, they weren't very expensive, and they were older, and unfortunately both of them passed away. So the stock that I'm working with now is different. But they were already treated too. I knew he had treated them for mites, and I don't know. Sometimes I flirt with getting in a group, and I think about making new pairs. But I've got so much going on these days that I'm like, if I'm gonna.
I think we all deal with that stuff. Like, do we want to get another project, or or is it get a new project, move one project out, right? So,
well, I told you my big game this year was just making my room fun, easy pets, and then stuff that some rare stuff that breeds. And I have to say, like, man, it's been so much fun. Like the snakes, dude, when they smell food and they come up to them, they go from shy, strikey, scaredy cat little babies to as soon as they smell food, they're like bold, like almost too bold, where you have to like feed them through like a crack. You're like, please don't bite me. And I got that banana pectinata. And she is just a dream, dude. She's my favorite reptile by far. Like, And then same thing with these, like the skunk geckos are really fun. The flying geckos that I can tong feed, the tokay that I'm getting pretty close to tong feeding, and it's just big and gorgeous. Like, and then the Chihuahua are just a dream, man. They're just so fun. How is the velvet geckos I gave you, the Sakalava? Have they hatched any eggs yet?
Oh no, you know what? I actually have not even. I haven't even like really messed with their enclosure like that to
Sure.
even search for eggs. I just been letting them kind of acclimate, but they're bold, they're out and
Yeah.
about. They don't
Yep.
like I see them. One of them, I think it's the female, always trying to plot and escape for real. Every time I'm spraying in there, she'll go all the way around and come back to the other side. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm still right here. What are you trying to do? So yeah, I think she's trying to plot and escape every time I spray her. But
That's really
no,
fun.
I mean, definitely, I'm having fun with all of them.
That's
I
great,
said
man.
between them, like I said, the Homophilus, they've given me like 5 eggs already. My Ciliaris, man, I'm on like, I think she might be giving me like clutch number 8 here pretty soon.
Goodness. So I may join you. I have a male I've been growing up and a female. And so yeah, I think the male came from Frank and the female came from my buddy Aaron out here, but I'm hoping to pair them up next season when the male's like closer to her size. And we'll see. I have to ask you about how you incubate. I'm not looking forward to incubating something with heat.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get some heat on there.
Room temp. That's what I'm gonna do.
I said I put mine like 82. Yeah, right. No, well, because the only reason I put the Homophilus in there because they said like, yeah, if you do it room temp, it's gonna be like 4 to 6 months. I was like, nope, not doing it. I was like, hopefully it's 3 months because actually my alert just went off. Check Homophilus incubator tomorrow, so we'll see what happens.
One of the Homophilus, I think it's like 120. It might even be like a full calendar year. It's so bad. I can't even imagine. You know,
the Triatus, my Cerdodactylus Triatus, is like 6 months. I'm like, I was like, yeah, for a little gecko like this.
9 months, I can't trust myself to not let the temps or the humidity go. You know what I mean? Like that's a long time to get it right.
Yeah.
But then there is an argument too of like, well, in the wild there is some fluctuation, you know, day and night, even though they're in the soil, so they're kind of insulated a little bit. There is, like Frank Payne talked about that. He lets a lot of his eggs, especially for desert species, go up and down. He incubates that like in the tank or whatever.
Yeah. I think I was watching when he did the scorpion care video. And he leaves the eggs right in there in like a deli cup, and then just kind of lets it, and then like I said, that fluctuation. But gotta control my shit, whatever I can control.
Right. Bless him. That dude works with he works with a lot of stuff that I work with, like fun, easy, rewarding reptiles. But he also works with stuff that's got to be such a pain. Like those Lacertas, they're phenomenal. Their personality, keeping them, they're out, they're pretty. But the fact that you have to cool them, the fact that, you know, they're going to lay eggs in the soil and then you're going to have to incubate them, and like all of that just, to me is like, oh, it's an annoying, like.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to cool those Ciliaris just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I know. But my room, I told you, whether I want to or not, in North Carolina,
it's gonna get low.
Go through some pretty crazy temperature variations.
Yeah. I mean, even what the hell is it? Like I said, the Zebracus, they come from Thailand. So whenever I hear people saying like, "Oh, you don't give them no heat or anything," I'm like, I've been to Thailand. It's hot as fuck over there, you know. So, but I still give them, like, if they want to bask, they have a basking area, you know, and then I give them like LEDs I got plants in there and everything like that. It's like I only got 2 enclosures with like live plants. It's
dude,
my Cerdodactylus zebracus and now these tree frogs.
Yeah, my friend Allie, she breeds like the micro geckos.
Which ones?
Well, like all of, I don't know. I think it's S. elegans.
Spherodactylus.
Yeah. The Spherodactylus. But she was saying, I mean, we were both kind of lamenting that it's really hard to keep plants alive if you're a breeder. Like, it's just not practical.
Yeah.
I have some tanks with live plants, but it's generally not things that I'm actively breeding because I have to tear the tank apart and like needs heat and that dries out the plants, and I can't keep on top. Like if I was retired and I had just, you know what I mean? I would just like, oh, you know, like I'll tend to the plants and like I'll really like go after it. But it's like, that's not me. I got a full-time job. I'm busy. I like to travel every once in a while. You know, it's not gonna happen.
Not everything. Only those ones. But even like she's lays in the same spot every time. So I already know where to go. And I made it to where she lays in the front. So she goes under her little cork bark drops her eggs, she's out. So
yeah, I'm trying to employ too for some of the anoles I'm breeding this year, like the chili pepper anoles and like
oh nice.
the I have a pair of Blue Beauty anoles.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that last time, and you're like,
Yeah.
Armin, he's not. He's
But yeah, those I try to minimize floor space, so I make the tank really tall. Like I do like a 40-gallon vertical, so then the amount of area that I have to dig is a lot less. And like Armin will put like a wet potted plant in there that he keeps like wet all the time, and they'll lay in there. And then you're removing a variable where it's like a lay box. Like I use lay boxes for all of my New Caledonian geckos, and it's the thing that keeps
Chihuahua. Like, have you bred Chihuahuas, right?
I actually have not bred Chihuahua. Every Chihuahua I've ever sold came from someone else.
Just be prepared because they don't like to use a damn lay box, and they're partial gluing too, as well.
I've actually had a really hard time with Chihuahuas. I pair them, and then it just seems like the female just immediately loses weight, and I have to, put her separate, and it freaks me out. So, but I also haven't been trying for very long, and I think I'm going to crack the code. Same with leeches. I actually have not bred leeches, but I have a pair that hasn't killed each other. I think that's a great sign.
That's a great start.
Good, she's beautiful. They're both really nice. So I would love to get there.
Yeah, from like the only reason I got into Chihuahuas was because everybody told me how hard they were. Yeah, give me the challenge. I love a challenge, and I produced them on my first year. And the only thing that was the challenge was figuring out how to get over the 50% mark, and it's just trying to so. After the first year, 50%, second year went up to like 70. And now with the other pair that I got, they're 100%. She's been giving me 100%.
What was the difference? How did you go from 0 to 100 or 50 to 100?
I was like, I definitely gave him a UVB. That was one thing I did.
Yep.
Because the shell is pretty hard. That is a calcified shell. So definitely that. Like I said, and I fed them more bugs than Pangea as well.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's rough to hear that when you're a new keeper, right? Because like when I started out, I wanted the easiest geckos, no heat, room temp, no electricity, only Pangea.
I gave them heat too.
Yep. And I heard Chihuahua too. They like it really. People are gonna murder me for saying their favorite word on camera. Moist. They like it really. They like it really wet. They come from swampier areas. Everyone's turning the podcast off. They come from swampier. They come from swampier areas in New Caledonia, and I noticed more than all of my geckos, they really seem thirsty when I water them, and so that's another thing. Is like boosting humidity seems to be a big one. But the concept of Chihuahua and Cresties being able to interbreed, but not being in the same genus does not sit good with me, bro.
No. That's one thing. Like I said, I'm not a proponent of crossbreeding and all that stuff. So that don't even touch it. What's the other thing that said heat, and then also I give them a cool down too. I gave them a cool down. People don't like I said, they get cooled down with everything. So it is. I mean, I had them drop down to to the low 60s at night, and then like I said, and then they recovered really well.
I think it's good for their bodies too to just have that rest period where they're not eating so much, not moving so much, not growing so much, they're not fighting or chasing each other. I think that's really important. And like my reptile room is over my garage, so in the summer it gets quite hot because my garage is insulated but not that well. And then in the winter, kind of the same deal, right? And so my room will get down to like 63 or 64. And I think there's a lot of people with new cows who will be like, oh my gosh, never take it over 80, never take it under 67 degrees. It's like, there's huge fluctuations in the wild. There are some people, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but there are people who are taking their new cows down into the upper 50s, right? They're not going to die. They're fine. And I've been doing this for years, and I've had great success breeding almost everything New Caledonia has to offer, except for
oh boy, what's his name? Yoshi of the Modern Reptile. I remember when he did have Cresties, he actually had them outside in the Florida weather all year round.
No way, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they were good. So you can do it. Like people get in their head, like, because you always hear room temp,
right.
and instead of actually getting a like what's the temperatures that they come from. So that's what all that misconception comes from right there, I think.
That's crazy.
You know, I mean, give them that cool, like you got to give them like that cold, dry season, and then a warm, wet season.
Yeah, I think it's also too. It's like, I mean, it's like fairy tale dragons, breeding dragons in Florida outside. Everyone was like, "Oh, the humidity is going to kill them." It's like, so the whole thing is actually airflow, right? Same with the cresties. Like, if you keep your crestie at 90 degrees, it will die. Like, you give it a heat lamp or whatever, you will kill it. They'll spaz out. I've seen it, in the hot weather here during shows. I tell people, do not put that gecko on your dash. Do not leave it in the car for any amount of time. Do not hold it outside in the sun for any amount of time. They will cook. But you have outside airflow. It's because your house is stagnant, right? There's no airflow. There's no breeze. There's no shade. If they're at 90, all of them is at 90. Where in the wild, 90 doesn't mean 90. You could be in a tree well that's not 90. You could be underground, under leaf litter. The ground is not 90. And if it's not in full sun, right? And so that's how a lot of these people are doing this in Florida. Is they're not
have it all nice and set up, and they got those not parameters, but they got different levels of like, all right, top is hot. You get to there, it's going to be like low 80s. Then get all the way to the bottom, it's in the 70s. So you got just different levels of heat. So, and they can find where they're most comfortable at. So,
man, and I find it so fascinating. Same with skinks. They're breeding skinks like crazy in Florida these days. Tikis and fairy tale. Good success. I noticed with the pink tongues too. Everyone who breeds them lives north of like North Carolina. So I'm like, okay, the winter seasonality must be a factor because those houses get cold.
Damn dogs.
Right. Jason, as we get towards wrapping up here, give the audience a teaser. What other topics are you covering in the next couple of months?
I know we got knobtails coming up.
Nice. Those are cool.
Yeah, we got Mr. Hassan. Gonna go ahead and do that one.
Yep. Is he from? He lives here, right?
He's in Cali. Yeah, Cali, he lives in Cali. That's what's called Frank Calichico's herping buddy.
Okay, nice. What else do you got coming up or coming down?
I think. Well, I know we got Kenny, the Dirt Daddy.
Yeah.
We got him coming up. I know I'm supposed to do a podcast with Aaron soon. Yeah, nice. Like we're gonna talk Calotes, and then who else? Can't remember who else we got coming up. I'm working with trying to get Frank back on. Talk. I think we're gonna talk Cytodactylus. I can't remember those fan-footed geckos.
Yeah, those are cool. Those are really cool.
Yeah. And then, I mean, of course, Ant, he got all the new cow stuff just pouring in. So I think his next one is going to be parkour.
Oh, dude, that's sick. Yeah, I actually sold. That's Michael Da Silva, right?
I think so. I'm not in the new cow world at all. I couldn't even tell you who's who. Yeah.
I appreciate that about you. It's, it's kind of funny. The whole Cresty thing is like designer dogs, right? And then it's like, everything else is like you actually own a zoo. You know what I mean? It's like there's like a nuance there of like fancy plants or fancy dogs versus like keeping reptiles for the sake. But it's all good, right? I'm not hating on anyone. I started out with just Cresties and then moved on to like everything. But yeah, that's really fun. How's the podcast growing? Have you seen more viewers this year than usual?
Well, it's growing now. Like I said, I noticed some bump up in like viewership and subscribers both in YouTube and Spotify. So I get to pay attention to both those analytics and see what's going on. And then especially like and it all depends on the person as well, right? Like the one we did with Jimmy Ma, people love that shit.
Yeah. It's a great topic, right? Tokays and leeches.
Yeah. Especially like with these new genes that are coming out. We talked about that blueberry, and then we also talked about that starry night, which I love that.
Yeah, they're beautiful, man.
Yes. I was like, that's gonna be one of my goals to get some of them. And I'm thinking about dabbling, going back into tokays. I used to have like powder blues and stuff like that. So, well, I need a ready to breed male then. Shit.
This is like ASMR. I had to go off camera, so I'm like a terrible gift from that. Tokays are actually, dude, a nice, big, normal male The way that they come normal, it's actually kind of, I was actually thinking about this yesterday. It's actually kind of hard to find a true normal where it's like pastel all the time. That light blue with like the good red spots. There seems to be this morph that's like almost more common than normal, where they're kind of a greenish color, or they're always dark. I don't really like that. Like my female looks that way, but my male, my gosh, I mean, it's literally got to be like one of the most beautiful geckos on the planet.
The natural beauty of them is what got me. Now it's like Jimmy showed me his melanistic one. It looks like pure black velvet. I was like, oh my god.
And those blues where they have no spotting too. Yeah, those are gorgeous.
Yeah, I had one of those from Richie a few years back.
Oh, nice.
I ended up gave it to my buddy because he has like this big ass tokay colony going on.
Okay.
And he got out caramel albinos, patternless, baby blues, Diablos, candy button, everything.
Is that Dakota?
Like, no. My buddy out here, he owns a reptile shop out here, and he's just really big into the tokays. And he's like,
Dakota,
I'll take it.
Dakota Blue or whatever his name is. They're freaking cool. I can't imagine how loud your house would be though if you had a colony of tokays.
Dude, I got pterodactyls right now. Like those, I can hear those things in my bedroom from the kitchen.
Yeah. Dude, like, lately because of I really love my White's tree frogs. They're literally like, I'm not going to go on a tangent here, but they're the best pet frog by far, and they're stupid easy to take care of. I mean, stupid easy. They're the easiest, like unkillable frog. But I will be like chilling downstairs, and I'll just hear like, like what is that? And then it's just them. And then if I'm listening to like a podcast, like I listen to your podcast a lot. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to like all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm watching Breaking Bad for the first time. So I'm on like season 4. And as soon as someone with like a lower resonance starts talking, the frog is like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then people will be like, do you have a dog? It's like, no, I don't have a dog. It's my freaking. And then I'm like, it's a frog. And they're like, that's what I said. I'm like, no, a frog, like an amphibian, like not a dog. But they bark and they only do it for like a minute. Same with the tokay, right? The tokay will go, they chatter, they go, and then they go, tokay, tokay, tokay. And then after like 3 times, they're like the world's laziest like F-boys. They're like, I want a female, I want to breed, but I'm only gonna say hey like 3 times, and then I'm gonna go.
Right. Oh, I mean, yeah, like my pterodactylus, my Zabrachus. It's like this piercing sound this male does. Like if I'm in the room when he does it, it scares the shit out of me. Like it's piercing, and he does it like probably like 4 times, and he'll do it like 4 times, and then a couple hours later he'll do it another, and then he does it in the middle of the night, and then like when I'm about to get ready for work, like 4 in the morning, I can hear him going off again, and then like my nebulosus just like machine guns them. Pop, 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 pop.
You should try to get that recorded. I'll tell you what scared the heck out of me.
I do have it recorded. It's on my IG.
Oh, great. Yeah. Send me that post. I want to hear it.
Yeah. I'll send you both of them. I got both.
I've been AWOL, bro. I feel like I'm missing a lot on social media these days. Just been bogged down with like in between shows and Palm Street and everything. Sometimes I get really behind on messages, which I never thought that would be me, but it is. The milk frogs, dude. Those calls sounds like a person, like like a creepy person. And I had never heard it call. I didn't know I had a male, and it was so I literally was like in bed, and I was like, what? And I was like, I'm like grabbing like a weapon. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, this
is happening.
It's a pretty rough. Everyone always talks like a big game about like if they saw someone in their home, you just want them. You're just like, get out of my house. It's so creepy. The milk frog as a messed up, disturbing call. Same with foxes. I have a fox in my backyard. I don't know if it's breeding or what it's doing. It might be living under my shed. And my neighbor texted me. He's like, I think there's a fox in your yard. I keep seeing it at 1 a.m. come out of your backyard. I'm like, what are you doing at 1 a.m. watching my yard? Right. Or whatever. And then he's like, it made this really terrifying screaming sound. Well, that just is what foxes sound like. They make when they're, especially when they're in heat or trying to find a mate, they just scream. And it's like, like a banshee, like all those fox tails. That's what a banshee is. It's just a fox. They literally scream. Like, give it a YouTube after this. Give it a good.
Yeah. Well, I seen one on like Facebook, and like making this crazy little noise. And it wasn't like a loud screaming noise. It was just he was like coming through the dog door or something. And then there was another dog right there and he started making these noises. I was like, that was like weird, but
I think in North Carolina, you're actually allowed to shoot them. They consider them. So North Carolina has some crazy strict rules about some species, and then other species they're like, whatever. So they have a whole category of mammals called nuisance animals, where you don't need a permit, you don't need anything, and I have no interest in shooting a mammal. Like that's just it's gonna bum me out. But I think you can just straight up, if you have a fox in your yard, you don't want it there, pop, pop. You just don't have to deal with it. Isn't that crazy? That seems like that.
Yeah.
But I think they're not. I don't know. Don't quote me, but I think they're not.
Oh man. All right. So before we get out of here, is there anything folks should know about these flying geckos to help them make sure, keeping them alive and all that good stuff? Yeah. Any good resources?
They definitely live longer if you feed them. Feed them like every 3 or 4 days is totally fine, regardless of life stage. If you get them wild caught, you're gonna have to treat them probably for internal and external parasites. If you get them captive bred, spend that extra money. You'll be happy that you did. There's plenty of us out there. They come up on Morph Market and other places from time to time. I was gonna say fauna, but I don't think fauna exists anymore.
Oh, it still exists. I still see people posting on there.
Oh, really? I went on there the other day and it had a message from 2024 saying that he fired his developer and was trying to figure it out.
They're still posting on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you want to keep in mind. You want them to have some heat, keep it humid. They're from Thailand and Myanmar and whatever. Yeah. But they're really rewarding. They're always out night or day. You can find them. They camouflage really well in the daytime. They're friendly. They'll tongue feed. They're really an amazing gecko. And so if you want something that's like a tokay that won't actively try to bite you unless you're grabbing it, then that's probably, and it's a little smaller, that's a good fit for you.
Okay, nice. And where can everybody find you at, man?
Yes, time to plug. All right, so I'm on Palm Street, Morph Market, and Instagram as nature_Nate_geckos. You can find me at Raleigh, Charlotte, and sometimes extended area reptile shows. I'm local to the Raleigh area. I do meet up in person, but Instagram is the fastest way to get a response. Palm Street is great. Follow me on Palm and Instagram. My Instagram is wild. I post all kinds of unhinged memes on my story and occasionally reptile content on my feed. So I'm a little bit of a renaissance man. If you're looking for something, I know someone who has it, or I might have it. So hit me up. It's a blast. Yeah, it's really fun.
Definitely. Well, thank you again for hopping on, talking about some flying geckos. Everybody, you guys have a great night, morning, evening, whenever you listen to this, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.